what they called an imminent terrorist plot on the French Riviera. The main suspect was a 23-year-old French citizen, a radical Islamist who had just returned from Syria. There he had fought in the so-called jihad, or holy war, against both President Bashar al-Assad's regime and rival rebel factions. The problem is that these seasoned fighters will return to France to carry out terrorist attacks. And that's the concern by French authorities. A France 24 team takes a closer look at those French citizens fighting in Syria.
He was an economics student, a volunteer firefighter in Grenoble, a man with a seemingly ordinary life. But in spring last year, aged just 23, Bilal set off to wage jihad in Syria.
Join jihad, celebrate all that it offers, for its rewards are far greater than anything you will gain from fasting or praying.
At first, Bilal fought in the ranks of the radical ISIS group, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. He then joined the Al-Nusra Front as part of a brigade created in December, composing almost entirely of French nationals.
The French Al-Nusra Brigade constitutes a majority of French nationals who have come together for logistical and practical reasons. That doesn't mean that it is a French brigade per se. Rather, it is a brigade that consists mainly of French people.
The Al-Nusra Front is a branch of Al-Qaeda whose aim is to combat the Syrian regime. However, in recent months, the front has also started to fight against ISIS. The worry now is that the French jihadists who are members of both of these radical groups could end up battling each other.
Indeed, it is ironic that originally all of these Frenchmen came to fight in Syria for the exact same reasons. But they have ended up in two very separate groups competing on the same territory. The French will end up killing each other, maybe not just yet, but eventually.
Bilal was killed in mid-February during a clash in Homs, according to his comrades. Intelligence services say Bilal is just one of hundreds of Frenchmen who have come to fight in Syria since the conflict began. Black, white, North African. The French jihadists don't come from the same background, but most of them grew up in the suburbs. Some do not even speak Arabic. Others are recent converts. Many of them are members of ISIS who previously fought against Syrian rebels and the Kurdish Workers' Party at the beginning of the year. Videos of the victims have been posted proudly on the internet.
And here are 4 dogs that belong to the Kurdish Workers' Party and fell into the hands of ISIS.
Both groups want to assert Sharia law and have started to burn mountains of cigarettes in public.
Burn these cigarettes and watch how the youth react.
Brothers, come to Sham.
We are here to stay, and we will not stop until the liberation of Palestine. We will fight here in Sham, watching down on Jerusalem.
The Sham region is an Islamist-ruled territory stretching from Iraq to Lebanon and through Syria. In order to attract militants to this remote region, the Islamists have to resort to modern-day advertising, the internet.
The purpose of this video is to invite you, brothers, to discover the reality of the situation and to encourage you to leave France to make hijrah and join us here in Syria.
Worryingly, these videos, which can be found on various social networks, have convinced many Frenchmen to wage jihad in Syria. They fight regularly alongside other foreigners, such as this Belgian, Abu Omar al-Baghihi, who joined the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. He filmed this video in close proximity to the fighting.
We need to protect ourselves from the bullets and the shells that are being fired at us by the enemy. We're fighting this war because we want to assert Sharia law. They're coming towards us in tanks and heavy artillery. There are many men. We don't have heavy artillery, but thank God, we have the greatest weapon a man can have.
The weapon, an unshakable faith, a very radical view of Islam that has managed to convince more and more Westerners to come and fight in Syria. Very few come out alive. In France, anti-terrorism authorities are also concerned by the threat posed by those who do manage to return.
It's time now for Web News, and we start off with a look at the volunteers who've been monitoring the Turkish local elections.
Sunday saw crucial local elections for Turkey and the government of Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Elections held against a backdrop of corruption scandals that have destabilised the authorities and fuelled fears of electoral fraud. Tens of thousands of activists in Turkey, well aware of the stakes at play, took steps to ensure the elections will run fairly. The Oy ve Ötesi group, set up by activists from the Gezi Park protest movement that rocked Turkey last year, says it recruited 30,000 volunteers via social networks to monitor polling stations in Istanbul. And over the past few weeks, these volunteers have received training on electoral procedures, so they will be able to spot any type of irregularity on voting day. There have also been a series of online video tutorials. The NGO Sandık Başındayız also urged voters to stay in the polling stations after they cast their ballot, so it wasn't just representatives from the different political parties overseeing the vote. And many have bypassed Turkey's block on Twitter to share their observations on the microblogging platform. Some claim to have witnessed voters in certain parts of the country being pressured to vote for the Prime Minister's Justice and Development Party, the AKP. Lebanese activists have launched a Facebook campaign in support of the many Syrian refugees in Lebanon who are facing racism. Ordinary citizens have been using the No to Racism keywords, posing with a sign rejecting discrimination towards Syrians. The movement was largely initiated in response to remarks made by certain Lebanese politicians commenting on the influx of refugees. There are now some 1 million Syrians living in Lebanon. The campaign is also targeting online racism and has already succeeded in shutting down the Neo-Nazis Against Syrian Refugees Facebook group. The page had already received warnings over hate speech. As Lebanese newspaper The Daily Star has reported, members of the group didn't hold back when discussing Syrian refugees, accusing them, amongst other things, of stealing their jobs. In this video posted online last year, Lebanese organisation The Anti-Racism Movement says traditional media outlets are also guilty of racism. They speak out against anti-Syrian sentiment and apologise on behalf of the people of Lebanon, saying sorry for the way they've been treating Syrian refugees who have already suffered enough and had to flee their own country. American web users have been posting under the LA Quake Twitter hashtag, commenting on Friday's 5.1 magnitude earthquake in Los Angeles. With dozens of photos showing how the tremors saw goods fall off supermarket shelves, for example. But some have poked fun at the panic-struck reactions posted online by sharing shots of the minimal damage caused by the quake, along with sarcastic comments like, "Pray for Los Angeles," or "Never forget." NASA is asking the public to choose the style of its next spacesuit. The American Space Agency has shared 3 different designs on its website and is asking web users which one they prefer. Voters just have to worry about the outer layer, as these suits will only be used on Earth and in simulators, and have until the 15th of April to cast their vote. A prototype of the winning design should be complete by November. You might not see him straight away, but Momo the dog is in all these photos featured on the Find Momo blog. The project is the work of Canadian photographer Andrew Knapp, who gets his border collie to blend into all manner of busy urban landscapes or finds him clever hiding places out in the countryside. Gavin Free and Daniel Grucci, aka the Slow-Mo Guys, are known for their incredible slow-motion videos they post to YouTube. And here's their latest offering, a very unusual experiment to say the least. They set up and off a chain of 150 mousetraps, and then filmed at 2,500 frames per second. No mice were involved in this experiment, but as we can see, it was a little painful for the guy that bravely set them off.
Oh, that's painful to watch. Do stay with us. We'll be back after a short break.